up a dive. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wide variety. Share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories are talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the group. Untold Radio Network, the secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Spectrum on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones. Today's show is pre-recorded, so if you guys have questions or comments and we're ignoring them, please don't be upset because we're just not in the studio today. We are pre-recorded. So keeping that in mind, you guys are really going to be missing out today because we have an amazing guest with us, and she is a wealth of knowledge on so many topics, but we are going to try and narrow it down to a couple here today. And we are going to get to that in just a second, because if you guys want to show your support for all things here at the Untold Radio Network, we'd really appreciate it. Here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned, plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys, my guest today is Dr. Heather Leigh. She is a doctor of, I am going to mess this up right. Oh my gosh. Doctor of Philosophy in Metaphysical Humanistic Science with a specialization in paranormal science. She is recognized as a Certified Paranormal Investigator and a Certified EVP Technician by the IMHS. Her mission is to infuse a scientific perspective into paranormal investigations and research endeavors. Her methodology includes employing the scientific method, scrutinizing the impact of thermodynamics on paranormal phenomenon, exploring paranormal history, and integrating diverse magic techniques. As the host of the Exploring the Paranormal and co-host of Ghost Education 101 and Passport to the Paranormal, Heather Leigh shares her insights widely. She is an accomplished author, contributing articles and books on the paranormal, including her acclaimed work on the scientific method in the Real Paranormal magazine in UK. Heather has also been featured on numerous podcasts and news channels, and she imparts her knowledge through online classes at Truckee Meadows Community College and previously hosted monthly talks on the paranormal titled Ghost Town Talks for Henderson Libraries. As the founder of Exploration Paranormal and co-founder of Witches Paranormal Society, Heather is deeply involved in the paranormal community. Her team, Exploration Paranormal, has been predominantly featured in documentaries like Real Haunts, Ghost Towns, and Real Haunts 3. Additionally, she has made appearances on popular paranormal shows like Ghost Adventures, Lake of Death. And now, ladies and gentlemen, she is here with us. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How was that? I totally got to that first philosophy and went, what the heck is that word? And it was not one of the words that stumped me up when I was reading through it to begin with. So,
No, you did good. Better than I did in the beginning with all of those big words in that degree. I still mess it up.
I try so hard. Oh, I usually
just cut it short. Paranormal science, end of story.
Yeah.
It's like
Heather's great. Here she is. Welcome to the show.
right.
I can't talk at all. So there you go. It's a good thing I host a show. I am super happy to have you here. I know we've been, I was on your show a while back, and ever since then, I've been looking forward to having you on and trying to get this scheduled. So we had to do it pre-recorded because it's just no other way to do it. But I'm super excited today to talk to you.
Yes, so am I. It's always been great. I mean, you give me some great ideas as well. So I love bouncing ideas off with you.
Absolutely. As we talked before the show a little bit, and there's one thing in your bio that I know is, very interesting, that you are a certified paranormal investigator. And I think people kind of, I mean, I know like there's a lot of people that are going to scoff at that. And I want to give you the opportunity to back that up, because it's super interesting that this is out there. And for anybody that wants to do it as well, how did that happen? Where did you get certified, and what's the whole story behind that?
Right. And real quick, just because I know the comments that probably will be popping up because I've seen them on other podcasts and on my own podcast is, just because it's a certified paranormal investigation, first of all, it's not a team that put up a 3-hour class and, here's your certification. It was I think it took me almost 2 to 3 months to get through this class. It included everything from ethics of paranormal research, how to conduct an investigation, how to handle client cases with integrity, respect, and confidentiality, how to even actually store and store and preserve data that we've collected. It goes into forensic research. So when you go into like Bigfoot or even ectoplasm, it goes into how to preserve that and collect that data to analyze. And then different methods on just kind of counseling the best we can, even though we're not counselors or anything like that, but how to counsel your clients and tell them where they can go to get help, or what the, kind of just basically knowing the field from start to finish. And I took it as part of the PhD program through IMHS, which is the Institute of Metaphysical and Humanistic Studies. And Dr. Kelly is amazing. He has a theological school, Thomas Francis University. here in Florida. And he created this paranormal program because he had a lot of people asking questions about ghosts and spirits and even exorcisms, even though that's not something he teaches. But he turned this into, he has, I think, there's probably about a dozen paranormal related classes that are fields that you can go into through his school. And this is one thing that he requires everybody to take. And it's his way of showing that, yes, we trained. And yes, we have the backing of the school saying they trained, they tested, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, to be honest, it's a lot of really useful stuff that you're talking about, like being able to treat the clients with respect and to,
Right.
A lot of people don't think about that. They think, it's paranormal. You go in, you do an investigation. And I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody under the bus or anything or, that, but it's not something that is, the forefront of your, when you work these. I think, I mean, and maybe that's not the case for most people, but I mean, it's just a lot of stuff goes into paranormal investigating that somebody that maybe doesn't do it doesn't understand that. So
right. And that's the biggest difference between ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, and paranormal researchers. Because I had one person on my podcast in the comments, and he was trying to do everything he could to throw me off. And it was like, well, the school's a fake, this and that. And he's like, at the end of it, after I replied to everything he said with an answer, he's like, well, I don't feel I need, meaning him, a PhD to ghost hunt. And my comment back to that was, that's the difference between you and me. You're a ghost hunter. I'm a paranormal researcher. And he, after that, has never been on my podcast again. He's never showed up in the comments after I said that.
I think I just had Larry Eisler on my show, and he made, this is going to air way in the future, but he was on my show a couple months ago at this point, and he made a comment at the beginning, what's the difference between a paranormal investigator and a paranormal researcher? And I said, well, a paranormal investigator goes out and does the investigating, and that's the end. And a paranormal researcher digs further into it, of the science behind it, and goes into more of that. And I think that's unfortunately something that a lot of people don't do. There's this whole paranormal tourism thing, and it drives me nuts, because people are like, oh, I went to this place, I went to that place, I went to that place. And what did you learn? Right.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss about being in Nevada, because I had partnered with, I volunteered even outside of the paranormal with, it was called McCaw School of Mines. And it was a museum that taught students about mining out in Henderson. And they had a lot of spirits there, which is how, I got into doing investigations with them. And we were doing a whole bunch of different things, and we started doing public investigations to bring in extra money and fundraising for them. But we didn't do it in the aspect of come ghost hunt. It was, you had an actual lecture and a talk on, hey, different pieces of equipment. And it was where people could come learn and then take what they've learned and go out into the museum and investigate using what they learned. And I truly believe that that's what this field needs, more than nothing against the celebrities. I know many of them that are out there, but more than come meet a celebrity and ghost hunt, there needs to be some form of training before it to maybe help spread the word that there's more to it than just going out and picking up equipment, which is a whole nother show that I don't believe works.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Than actually doing the investigation.
Yeah, I think a big part of the research is data. And all these people are like, well, do you have data or anything? And they're like, I got a whole file of EVPs. You want to hear them? Great. And now what can you tell me about the data that you've collected on this investigation? And they're like, I don't understand. Like, okay.
Yep.
That's the difference right there. But maybe we can.
My favorite is when they're like, here's all this data I've collected, and it's photos and EVPs. And with the PhD, we dove deep into, the science behind the human voice, science behind, animal sounds and all of that stuff. And they hand me this stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's a human voice just from the freak. And it's like, I declassify everything that they have classified as a class A EVP.
Nice. Wow. All right. So another thing that we're going to get to our topic today, I promise. But another thing is that I would like to talk about in your bio, you use thermodynamics in the paranormal. So tell me a little bit about what that means. Like,
there are the different laws of thermodynamics, and what it is it's, and it goes along with Einstein's energy can neither be created nor destroyed, and all of those, the different theories and theories of relativity, and Heisenberg's principle is a big one in that as well. And it just kind of goes into, it's really hard to explain. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it without missing something. So essentially, the different laws is, of course, energy can't be created nor destroyed. It has to come from somewhere. So once we pass, of course, you have our body, what happens to it? And it's more to just that than, all the different wavelengths and, oh my goodness, I'm like so drawing a blank. I completely, you can just remove that PhD from my name right now. Holy crap.
That's right. I couldn't read philosophy, so her.
Oh my God. I'm just going to do a quick cheat sheet so that way I can get my train of thought back. But yeah, the laws of thermodynamics is basically when it comes to, there we go. The heat and everything has a big part into it because more so than just grabbing a a visual temperature gauge and a thermal camera. It's more than that because we've noticed in different areas where there's thermal activity, you're going to have an increase in paranormal activity. You're going to have a whole bunch of different things with, the equilibrium of stuff is another thing too. So when you have the different spikes in energy, it goes along with the theories, and I'm still not fully on board with that, but the theories of cold spots. And you have the cold spots versus the hot spots, and that's like where paranormal meets. So it's kind of like pulling those out of the woodwork, as well as I'm like, oh my goodness, I am like so bummed right now. I'm like, that wasn't a question I was thinking you were going to be asking me today, even though I know it and we use it in our research. It wasn't just something that I had thought of, that I had prepared in my head. But basically, actually, I just pulled up my slide from a presentation that I'm doing later this year. But basically, it's law of conserving energy is the first one, of course. So you have all of this energy that's stored up, and it can't hold on to it forever. So is paranormal activity happening because all this energy from the past is storing up and slowly releasing? Because the other theory that we have is, or that I have, or my team has, is we don't see a lot of spirits from way back when. You're not seeing you're not seeing BC spirits or spirits that we believe from BC. Why is that? Is it because their energy has been released and has slowly faded? Why are we seeing more modern day, and a lot of people, we don't even see a lot of spirits from today quite yet. So is it that their energy hasn't built up enough to release to it? There's more questions when it comes to that than anything else. And the more energy that gets put into these little, I guess you would call them like pockets, the more paranormal activity you're going to have. And even though that's one of the aspects that we use it, and that's where you kind of threw me off a little bit, which is fine. I'll be prepared next time with thermodynamics on that one. But the biggest thing that we're researching now is, it's called the Superman theory. Okay. And it's it's similar to the stone tape theory, but it's out of a UK scientists have been doing it, and they call it the Superman theory because of quartz crystal and all of that. And they believe that areas that are high concentrated quartz have higher aspects of paranormal activity. Mostly where you see it, the high level of quartz that we found looking at geological maps include areas, Nevada Triangle, Alaska Triangle, where all of these areas have that, and you're also finding high levels of quartz concentration in areas such as Skinwalker Ranch. So are those the things that are causing it? But yeah, when it comes to thermodynamics, it's like, that's a rabbit hole that we could go down to forever if I have my little bullet point notes. But yeah, I feel like, just remove that PhD right now. I'm like, well, it's too early. No.
Yeah. We are going to have a 5-hour show with just me and you, just going over things eventually here. And anyway, right. So
yeah, and let me know the topic ahead of time, because then I'll have more preparation on that one. Because that's there's so much information that I have.
Everything.
Yeah, there's so much information that I have that it's like if I'm prepared for a certain topic, it's like I don't even think of the other stuff that I that I know.
No, that was good. I understood where you were going right away as soon as you
Okay.
started going down that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's why you're talking about. All right, but yeah, all right, cool. That's absolutely, like, I love the science behind paranormal. You know, I've
Right.
always I'm super skeptical of all this stuff, even though I've had experiences.
Mhm.
I've heard EVPs in person. You know, I have seen things in
Yep.
person, full bodied
Mhm.
apparitions. I have seen this stuff, and I still go, well, did I?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm still chasing those the proof positives of all that stuff. Going, I saw it, but did I see what I really saw there, or
Mhm.
did I hear what I thought I heard? And I need this proof. I need the science
Mhm.
behind it. And what is it then if it's science? But I do love the
Yeah.
whole thermodynamics aspect
Yeah.
of this. And all
Right.
right, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we could, because I'm like, the other theory we're working on is that EMFs are just shoot them out the window. Don't even use them for investigations, I tell people. Because you have especially with, I'm working in telecommunications now and radio waves and cable waves and all of that stuff. And just for training for that job, I realized that these waves can travel tens of thousands of miles. They fade over time, but they can still travel. So yes, you get a K2 spike now. 2 seconds later, you get a K2 spike. 2 seconds later, you get another one. That's not the spirit communicating with you. That could be a telephone pole from 50 miles away that the wave is just coming through and it just hits your meter at the right time. So we don't even use those on our investigations anymore.
No, I totally I can respect that, and I totally understand that, but like, that's for the most part, when you research and you go
Mhm.
back and look at this data, there's been times when I've ruled stuff like that out because you can
Mhm.
literally go, wow, we're getting really consistent answers here.
Right.
Oh, look, they're exactly 7 seconds apart,
Yep.
and I've been able to rule that out. But
Change up your questioning and
yeah,
timing.
on other cases, we've got intelligent answers that will spike and do it and only answer. And the way that I double check things is you ask the same questions more than once.
Hmm.
And if you
Yeah.
still get the same answer, then it's more of a proof positive of those questions. But
Right.
yeah, I think
But
that's
yeah.
important to point out. Check your data when you
Yeah, exactly.
get a little carried away and excited in the moment, and then you come back and you find out that every 7 seconds your answer was yes.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And the opposite 7 seconds, it was no.
Exactly. Yep. Hmm. I will make one final comment here because I think you'll appreciate this, and then we will move on to our topic at hand. I was watching a pretty popular paranormal television show. Well, we
Mhm.
won't go into that. And they said, "Oh my gosh, there's activity upstairs, and the REM pod is going off." So they go upstairs and they get upstairs and click the walkie-talkie and go, "As soon as I walked in this room, the REM pod started going off." And, "Oh, it stopped. Oh, it's stopped now. Oh, wait, it's going off again." And I'm like, wow.
Mhm.
I know that you can appreciate
Oh,
the
yeah.
aspects of this, because for anybody listening, if you click a walkie-talkie anywhere in the vicinity of an entire house of
Mhm.
a REM pod, it sends out the RF frequency that will trigger a REM pod.
Yep.
And it's just, I'm watching this
Yeah.
going, man, and this was the skeptic of the show going, "Oh,
Mhm.
look, the REM pod's going off." And I'm like, you really need to
Oh,
check your data and facts and stuff.
yeah. That's another piece of equipment we refuse to use, but that's a whole nother show as to why.
You don't like the theremins? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, people don't realize that there's vibration happening all around us all the time that can set that off. Even if it's on the most solid surface, you don't know what's happening under the earth at the time you put that there.
Mhm. Interesting. Absolutely. Oh man. Well, we could go on this. We have already
Yeah.
spent almost a half hour here
So much
talking
for
about
our topic.
random things. Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was super interesting, because of stuff that I was working on and continue to work on, is you are part of the, I'm going to call it by its original name, the Hatman Project.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start out a little bit. Before we get into the project, tell everybody, can you explain what this entity is and a little bit about like the history and background of it? Yeah.
And that's the hard part is we still, the more research we do, we don't know what or who he is. So I can throw out a couple of the theories, but we have, in the research that we have done, we have collected over 1,000 stories from people all around the world. And essentially, the legend of the Hatman is that he is an entity, usually seen wearing a hat. Most people refer to him as a fedora hat. And he'll come to you for various reasons. Some people have reported that he's a watcher, just standing in the corner, watching what's happening and observing. Others feel he's a protector that is there to protect people. And the most common one is that he usually appears before death and destruction or something negative happening in a person's life. Like if the Hatman appears and you see him, typically you won't live much longer is what some people say. So that's kind of the main theory. And the latest urban legends, thanks to TikTok, is that if you take Benadryl at night, you may encounter the Hatman. So please, 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 please do not overdose on Benadryl because people are. They're overdosing on Benadryl and ending up in the hospital. And when they say why they did it is they wanted to see the Hatman because of other TikTokers claiming they saw the Hatman when they took Benadryl. So that's my cautionary tale right there. So I don't get in trouble for sharing these stories.
Remember the disclaimer at the beginning of this episode? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's kind of interesting. And then other theories in the past, I mean, what's interesting, and I'll get into that in just a minute, but other theories include that he is the leader of the shadow people. He is just, a lot of people think he's all around evil, which we've learned that there's a possibility it could be all of them. The main reason why I joined the project is because after reading some of the stories that were sent to me, I was helping by analyzing data and reading some of the stories and giving my impression on what was really happening. It's tough because I had my own personal experience after starting the project versus reading some of these. I really truly believe that this is self-manifested. They're tulpas. They're not real. And the main reason for that is the data we've collected is if you are in the southwestern region of the United States or in Mexico, you're seeing him either in a cowboy hat or a sombrero. If you're in China, you're seeing him with that pointed hat. If you are in other parts of the country, they've seen him in all types of, like the Northeast, they see him in what I guess you could say almost resembles like a pirate hat, but more of a British soldier's hat during the Revolutionary War kind of thing during that era. So it's just so many different things. I was like, it's got to be self-manifested if it's related to your culture. But we're starting to realize that maybe he's adapting to everyone's culture to make an appearance. And our stories that we've collected include everything from that he's just a peaceful encounter. He was there to console somebody. And several people, including my partner in the project, she's been physically attacked by this thing. And you'll need to get her on the show because her story of what happened, what got her into this project is absolutely amazing. The other things that we're encountering is that he tends I want to say a high percentage, like 80 or 90% of the people we've interviewed are Rh negative. And there's a correlation with him going after people who, and those are the ones that have the haunting experiences with him where he actually physically attacks them or harms them, or they feel like they're in danger.
What does it mean, Rh negative?
There is a blood type that is Rh negative. And it is also, I've seen it on other documentaries as well as other research that people believe like alien encounters, that those with Rh negative blood are, some of the theories are that they're alien hybrids or they have some type of alien in their background or that they're alien themselves, so that's kind of one of the theories, but it's just a very rare blood type. Not many people have it. I don't have the percentage off the top of my head, but that's an easy correlation that we've seen it. And also there's a lot of, if you take the missing 411 map and overlay it over a lot of the public known Hatman encounters, they're similar. So it's, he's making his rounds. And our goal, the main reason why I continued with the project is because after I started researching the project, I had an experience one night. I suffer from sleep paralysis, but I've never felt scared, never felt endangered. There was medical reasonings behind it. But one night after I started, I was scared to death during the time it happened. And I could still physically, whenever I've had it before, I've never felt something crawl on my bed or on top of me. And during this experience was the first time I've had it for more than 20 years that I've actually felt something crawl on top of me. And the way I was sleeping, I couldn't see it, but I remember opening my eyes and trying to scream to my husband for help. And I couldn't scream, couldn't move. And then all of a sudden, what felt like hours, I blacked out. And then I woke up the next morning perfectly fine. So we in our research, feel that was a warning, like, hey, we can get to you type of thing. And I just told my partner, I'm like, that doesn't scare me. Because she's like, I'm so sorry. This is what happened. People drop out of this project left and right once they start researching it. That's why the original person who started it has dropped out. And they get scared and they leave. And I told her, I'm like, this isn't going to happen. I'm the one who will be going, Hatman, where are you? Come see me. Not in a disrespectful TV show kind of way. I'll be like, you want to show yourself? You want to share your story? I'm here. Come talk to me. I'm that person that will go find him. So, but in going back to the history of the Hatman, we're also finding hieroglyphs in ancient Egyptian caves that resemble the Hatman. We have found pictures of petroglyphs out in Nevada that resemble the Hatman. And cross-referencing our data, we're finding that we have similarities in our research to Bullfrog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. So we're kind of
Blind Frog.
Was it Blind Frog?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, Blind Frog Ranch.
I wasn't sure because Okay.
Yeah, no, Blind Frog Ranch. You're right.
It's like,
it should be Bullfrog.
Bullfrog Ranch. Where's that?
Bullfrog Ranch. It sounds much better. No, Blind Frog Ranch.
Oh,
yeah. But we're finding similarities in our research to what they're doing and hoping to make some advancements once we finish gathering our data with in partnerships with some of them.
Okay. So, first of all, do you think...
I know I went off on a tangent kind of, but...
Do you think that it is a he or a they? Like, is there more than one of these? Is it a species or a group of them, or is it one individual entity?
In my personal opinion, even though we don't have any type of proof, I think it is one. Just knowing how multidimensional and metaphysical aspects work, and that's where the science from me behind comes into the project. And it's mostly because it's similar, and I think I don't really want to use this reference, but it's the only thing I could think of. It's either like a pyramid scheme or like almost like a religious, a god, to where the Hatman, not saying that the Hatman is a god, but he is the leader, the one that everybody looks up to and the one everybody takes orders from, almost, or actually even a dictatorship would be the better. Mm-hmm. But then he has all of his little minions below him, we're discovering. You have, the shadow people that he can send out. And usually a lot of people have reported seeing a shadow person the day before encountering the Hatman, or they've also seen a shadow animal the day before the Hatman. And he's also been seen with shadow animals with him. So that kind of is very interesting in that aspect. But then there's also, we refer to them as the shades. And that includes the hag, shadow people, and even, I can't remember the name that she called him, but it was one of those, he appears in an ice cream truck. And he has a really strange, I'll have to send you the photo. That because she created an AI image, and it's like, she's like, that's exactly what people are seeing based off of the stories that we had. And it's just, he appears in an ice cream truck to appeal to kids. And then when the kids approach, he changes form and, so he has all of these little minions, I guess, working for him. So like, he's the higher up and everybody looks up to him. But then I do know other people we've worked with truly believe that there's more than one. which is why the cultural differences are. But I believe that he's just transforming how he looks to make people more comfortable, and to either as a way of he's going to help them. He wants them to be comfortable with him, just like a spirit coming to us in a familiar form, or, or a demon coming to us in a familiar form, if you want to go that route. Or it's also a way of making them feel comfortable before he attacks.
Mm-hmm. Have you taken any reports of multiple, like you talked about appearing with other shadow entities and stuff, but have you ever taken a report of two of the Hatman in one place, kind of like a Men in Black kind of situation?
Right. No.
No. Okay. Yeah, and I have not heard that either in any of the stories that I've collected.
Right. Yeah. I'm waiting for the Men in Black to come knocking on my door for this research.
Interesting. There was another question and I've lost it now. It was about you were talking about not being more than one and this being a singular. So in the 1,000-some reports, we talked about diving into research and all this stuff. So have you looked at any of these that are happening at the same time or the same day or a period of time to say that, okay, in January he was over in China, in April he was in the US, to identify it as being a singular entity? Have you been able to have multiple encounters on the same time?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that aspect as far as timeline in the research, because, oh my God, if our questionnaire is 200 questions long.
I've taken it. Yeah.
Okay. And we've actually pared it down from what it used to be. But we have noticed that just from quick glancing at the data, that there aren't two occurring in relatively the same time or location.
Okay.
But we have noticed that a lot of people will experience it when they're younger than when they're older. They'll have more encounters with him when they're younger, but then as they get older, they kind of either slow down or diminish altogether, which I guess this is the conspiracy theorist in me. Have you seen the movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage? Yeah. Where like the earth caught up on fire, but his son kept saying he was seeing this man or this entity. That's kind of the vision that I'm getting with this project lately. Is that they go to the children for a reason, that they want the children, not to scare anybody to say that they're coming after your children, but they're there to watch over your children and to be there almost like they're picking and choosing who they're going to take at the end of days. Because it just seems odd that the majority of our people who have done it have reported their encounters occurred when they were a child and then they stopped. Or parents claiming that because we get a lot of parents calling us afraid because their child is either being harmed or being scared because of, and they describe the Hatman to a T.
Interesting. I know there have been 3 of us on the CAPS team alone that have had an encounter with them. And offhand, I cannot remember one of the stories when it happened, but the one was when she was younger. So that does kind of go along with that. Mine was just a couple years ago though. Okay. So that was not when I was younger. So and then some of the other ones was more in the teenage years and stuff like that, teens to early 20s. So
yeah, because we noticed that there's a spike in the younger age group, and then in the teenage group there's still that area, but like in the 20s and early 30s we're noticing kind of it goes down, but then in the 40s to 50s there's a spike again. So it's, I don't know, where we still, oh my God, there's so much data that she sends it to me in these big lump sums, and it's like, holy crap, my head starts to hurt. But we're getting through it, and we set a deadline for next October for us to release the book with all of our data.
Wow, so that's gonna be a lot.
Yeah.
Have you run across any cases where it's not necessarily a person but a location that the entity shows itself?
I have one, and it's which book did I put it in? I think it's in my Haunted Florida Lighthouse book, because Fort Jefferson, for some reason, seems to pop up on a lot of haunted location lists. And when I was researching, actually Fort Dade and Fort Jefferson both had encounters with the Hatman, and multiple encounters. Like Fort Dade is on this little island, and half of the fort is underwater because the island is starting to fade away. So you can go snorkeling through the fort and everything while it's underwater. It's really, really neat place.
Yeah.
But a lot of people there's an area where you can go into the basement where they held the ammunitions during the Northern held that island for the Civil War. And then it was also a key player in the Spanish-American War. And people would go in there. There's one girl, I know someone who knows her, and she went in there to take photographs and just to see if she could get in, one of those. I've never had a paranormal experience, but people say that happens here. I'm going to go in. They said she went in there, came out white as a ghost, like 5 minutes later, and didn't talk the rest of their trip, just refused to talk. And I'm like, can you get her to talk to me? And they're like, no, she won't talk to anybody about what happened. She absolutely refuses to. But people have reported seeing a large shadow figure lurking in the corner, and they just feel like their life is going to end. Nothing is said, nothing happens, but they just get almost like he's telepathically communicating with them, like get out type of thing, or I'm going to hurt you. And nobody stays in that basement very long. I haven't been there to get into the basement, but I'm hoping to soon, because I just want to see if these stories are true. And then at Fort Jefferson, that is on another island in the Dry Tortugas over here off of Key West. And that is where Dr. Samuel Mudd and the other conspirators for the Lincoln's assassination were held. And it was the hospital for the yellow fever, as well as a whole bunch of other medical disasters that occurred during that time. And he has been in the jail cells. He has been reported being seen off in the distance. And everybody, I think I found 4 stories online that are the same story. Whether it's the same story being shared on different websites, I'm not sure. And I've talked to several people who have worked there, have visited there, and they all have the same story, that they'll see him kind of standing at the end of the hallway with all the jail cell doors open. And then in between them and him, it's almost like a portal starts to open, where they say everything looks like a kaleidoscope in front of them that's just spinning. And then the kaleidoscope stops and he's gone. So is he using a portal to travel, or but in the experience that my partner has in the project, she said in the middle of her and her sister being attacked by the Hatman, a white light opened up in the top corner of her room. And he gave, I want to say she said he gave out a screeching sound, or she felt like he was screeching, and he just vanished. So, or is it something similar to that, where something was opening up to protect the people, and he knew it was time to get out of there?
Yeah, like a shield or something that, pops up in between you and the entity.
Right. Yeah. So, but it's similar stories among many people. And other people I've known. I met a girl at Phantasm last year, and we were talking about the Hatman Project, and she said that she would be lying in bed and she would see that similar kaleidoscope looking thing in front of her. And all of a sudden he would appear, and then she would see it again and he would disappear. So that kind of leads me to believe maybe that's something he uses as a portal. Yeah, more questions come up every time.
No,
the research we do.
How many cases have you had where a person has seen it more than once, like a habituation?
Just off of the notes and stuff that I've looked at so far, I would say we're up to about 20%.
Okay.
Where people have seen it multiple times. Which, I mean, out of 1,000 surveys, that's 200 people. So it's, yeah, it adds up over time, and who knows, it could be more, because I'm now we actually started putting together, we're doing 2 books, because we've asked everybody who submitted their stories, and if they don't want to do it, we'll leave their name out, but we've asked permission to share their stories, and we've turned their stories into an actual, almost like an anthology of stories. And our first one is coming out right now. It's up to 30 stories, but I think we're going to put it at 40 for the total amount of stories that we have in there. But it's Chronicles of the Brim, and these are the personal accounts of all these people we've interviewed.
Of the Brim?
Chronicles of the Brim, stories of the Hatman.
I love it. I love it.
And
That's
part 1 is going to come out in October, and part 2 will be out next spring.
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Oh man. So I'm just hung up on Chronicles of the Brim. That's great.
You got in the field we do, we got to have some humor.
Yeah. I mean,
And
especially with what you're talking about here, you know, and the
yeah.
high strangeness and weirdness of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my purpose is I'm actually seeking out public locations that he's been at. And that's where we're going to start our investigative research to actually do, because my hardest thing is, and that's why we don't do client cases for our team anymore, is how do you go to a client's house and say, oh my God, we have this great new experiment. Can we test it out in your home? While they're suffering from paranormal? You can't do that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I have a very specific location such as that. It's the Gainers Tavern, or the Bean Snappers Gentlemen's Club is where we've done a lot of our research. And that's what kind of started me down the Hatman path, because a lot of the people that are working there have seen it, including
and
myself.
Those are the locations we're looking for, because we have some projects that we're in the process of working on. So we're trying to find public locations so we don't expose the people who have surveyed to where we can try to call him out almost.
We've tried that there, and we've had like Estes sessions or other things where spirits are coming through, communicating, answering questions, and then all of a sudden they'll say things like, he's coming, he's here, and the entire mood in the building changes. Everything stops, all the equipment stops going off, all the entities stop communicating. And then this other entity comes in and goes, leave, you're done, get out, you know, all this stuff. And then eventually that goes away, and then everything else comes back. Right. And we've tried to say, you know, well, if you're so big and powerful, all these things, you know, don't want to communicate. They all run, you know, do something, you know, throw something, make a scene, you know, kick me out of here, and nothing happens.
Right.
So I've personally tried that at this location, and I don't know. I have not gotten anywhere, and he has not been seen there for we did something there, and he has not been back since. To the staff's knowledge and everything, and the whole dark entity of the building has kind of dissipated, and now we have all new things there. So it's a really interesting. So now we've started this whole other. Okay, well, now that this dark entity is gone, now all this other stuff came in. So why? Oh, and so now we've opened up a whole new avenue of research and stuff there. So
well, if anyone at that bar that has experienced it or anything, have them fill out the survey or contact me directly, because we are going to be doing video interviews soon for people who are interested for a project that we may be putting together with a production company.
Very cool.
So we're trying to, so anyone who has the experiences and is willing to share their story, we're willing to listen. And eventually it's going to lead into people who are currently seeing the Hatman, us going to their home and trying to, you know, and we're bringing on a whole bunch of people, everything from, you know, we have a psychiatrist who deals in paranormal PTSD, paranormal encounters, who is on board with us, helping us with our research and there for clients if they need it. And so we're kind of really, we're diving deep into this, and we're not letting go. I found this, and there's so much, I mean, as much as I love paranormal science, I'm able to bring that over for most of this, but I'm just loving the stories behind this and the, you know, why is he doing it? And then once we figure out that we have proof that he does exist, because I've never seen him personally for me. So in my mind, it's one of those still, does he really exist, or is he a tulpa type of thing? Because everyone says he's there. Is he there? But once I have proof that he does exist, then that's where I'm going to start bringing more of my scientific aspects into, okay, how is he getting from point A to point B?
You mentioned that earlier as well, that this could be some sort of a thought form or projection of a person's experiences. So how does that account for people who have never heard of this phenomenon or have never experienced it or anything? How would you explain that as far as why they are now experiencing it for the first time?
And that's the tough point. That's where, you know, then it brings back the, okay, well, maybe he is real, you know, because it's so, it's so hard because in the research that I did in, what was the name? It was the Wild West town that was just outside of Las Vegas, Bonnie Springs. They said, okay, this is what happens every day. The spirits come out at this time, and then they would do gun battles in the afternoon just to try to draw them out. And it was truly believed that, even when the gun battles weren't occurring, the spirits were still coming out at that time. So it was a combination of, because they all said at noon, these spirits come out, did they create that thought form? And now at noon they come out. So but when you have those people who've never heard of it, and not to dismiss their stories, because I truly do believe that everybody's stories are legitimate, because I'm a trusting person and I don't think anyone would make up these stories that they're sharing with us. But have they really never heard of the Hatman? You know what I'm saying? If you have a TV, if you have, TikTok, he's all over the place, apparently. If you have something, chances are someone somewhere has heard of the Hatman or a similar story. In just my opinion. But, it could be someone who just has never heard of it, and I don't know.
Well, let me flip this on you, because you want to talk about not seeing the same entity, or not knowing of it. What are your familiarities with the Flannel Man?
I've never heard of him, so there you go.
Now, see, that is another entity. I'll give you a little bit about that. The Flannel Man, and I don't know a lot about this, but is another entity very similar. He appears to people sometimes in the mirror behind you, or just full-bodied apparition of this being, but it's a man wearing a flannel long sleeve, kind of like a lumberjack shirt. And it's very similar to the Hatman entity and stuff. So now you say, well, people have seen about this on TV or heard about it. Well, here's an entity that, if you look into the Strange Familiars podcast, Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner. Timothy Renner is kind of the leader in the research for this entity. And he has a lot of episodes on people's experiences with the Flannel Man. I personally know somebody who's had an experience with the Flannel Man. So there's all these different things out there about that as well. So, but this, and when I've heard some of these stories about this entity, I think, well, is it Hatman that you're just, seeing? No, this is something totally different. I don't remember. I don't think he has a hat at all, but it's very vividly that he has this flannel shirt on.
Right. Because that's my thought then when you were talking about it, is depending on where it occurs. So like if it occurs in a lumberjack region, could it be that culture's version of the Hatman?
Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting. Ooh. That's a good point. Flannel hat.
But then the other thing too is tulpas can occur, and a person could never have heard about it, like the Slender Man, or even a rake. There's all these people that are like, this strange creature. I've never heard of anything like that before, and then they get online and they realize that people are talking about the rake all over the place. Could it have been a creature that was created by, a group consciousness of people thinking about it, and now it's roaming Earth freely?
Well, see, my thought on Slender Man, I get the point there. The rake, though, is very similar to the mythology of like the Pale Crawlers and the Wendigo.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that, when you talk about these creatures, Bigfoot and so forth, where you have the grass man, the skunk ape, the Yaren, you have 100 different names for the same being. And I'm wondering if the rake is just a modernization of an older term. So I get kind of that there, but so a lot of the stuff with paranormal is intent, is energy, as we kind of talked about in the beginning too, with putting energy into things. So even if I'm going to lose my train of thought here. If it's slipping. The train was going so good down the track and it started to lose momentum there. Any of these things, you talked about that battlefield with, if you put that intention out there, you can create that.
Yep.
And it's that's your whole thought form. That's your whole tulpa and stuff, is with enough people putting energy there, you can manifest this. That goes to the whole research aspect of the paranormal. Can we have enough people to manifest something? Well, this goes to like CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Stephen Greer's process of calling down extraterrestrials or lights or beings of some nature. If you get enough people and you put them all on the same wavelength and say, okay, we want to make contact, we want to call you down, isn't that the same thought of putting intent and energy into manifesting these things or a tulpa?
Yeah, no different than the Philip experiment, which I've done extensive research on.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Oh, you're not?
No. We're just going to trade stuff back and forth here. I tell you about the flannel man, you tell me about Philip.
The Philip experiment was a group of college students with their professor got together, and they basically essentially had tea or, tea every day at whatever time.
Okay.
And they would talk about their dearly departed friend Philip.
Yep.
And after a year of doing this, they started doing paranormal investigations, and they even had this backstory on who he was, who he was in love with, how he died. And they started doing, Ouija board sessions, bringing psychics in and doing, investigations on it in the 70s. And they were getting answers based off of those stories that they shared. So was it that they manifested Philip and he was now a spiritual entity that roamed wherever they were at? Or was it their subconscious giving them that's the other part of this whole thing, is that their subconscious giving them the answers when they're doing the investigations? Because, and it's, I truly do believe that if you're a gifted psychic, great, use it. More power to you if you can use it. But there's no scientific proof yet that maybe the psychics that they brought in were picking up on what these students had said in the past. Or were they really communicating with an entity named Philip? Or the, actual Ouija board sessions, was it their subconscious moving the planchette based on the answers, or even the table tipping? Were they, poltergeist? Were they manifesting it themselves? There's like so many questions, you can't look at one experiment and then it just opens up so many more questions and avenues for research.
Yeah, I actually have heard of that as soon as you started talking about or on that line, is Philip actually exist in the first place and put himself into the subconscious of these people to manifest it.
That too.
If they're have any, well, we all supposedly have psychic abilities, and if they're trying to channel this entity or Philip, he's just there going, hey, I'm Philip, and they're like, let's call him Philip, and he's really just telling them, okay, and I was born in 19 whatever, and they're like, oh, he was born here.
Or who's to say that it wasn't a spirit that was just wandering by, and it's like, oh, this group is doing this, well, I'm gonna have fun, I'm Philip.
Well, that's like whenever I do paranormal presentations, I say, people all the time go to the cemetery to talk to their dearly departed loved ones or whatever. And you go to the cemetery to talk to your grandma. Well, everyone thinks that just because their body is buried there, that's where they reside. And if you, when you pass away, are you going to spend time with your family, or are you going to hang out with your dead body in the cemetery? No. So when people go to the cemetery, they're like, oh, I want to talk to my grandma. And all of a sudden this thing goes, I'm your grandma. Sure. Let's have a conversation. And this is how people get the attachments and take these things home, because they've opened themselves up to this. So now you say, okay, we want to talk to our friend Philip, and this entity comes through and he goes, I'm Philip. Sure. Yeah, I am definitely your best friend, Philip. And now they got this other thing attached to him. So
yeah. And that was, what was the name of that movie? Holy crap. It was with the guy who played I'm like, let me just look it up real quick.
I don't watch many movies, so I'm going to be no help in this one.
The Quiet Ones.
Okay. Yep.
The Quiet Ones was based on that. And basically it was the take on that when they started doing this, that the entity they created was evil. But then they also wondered, was it an evil entity that just, pretended it was Philip?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, who knows? Who knows?
There's a lot of confirmation bias there that you
Mhm.
could say, okay, well, we manifested Philip. We brought him into existence. Did
Right.
you? You know, like
Mhm.
is you're saying, okay, we are doing this to create Philip. And you manifest him, you tell the story, you do all this stuff, and you say, okay, I manifest Philip.
Mhm.
But did you actually do that? Or, like you said, was he there already? Did he feed you the information? Or is this something completely different? So now, how do you realistically justify that experiment? Where's the scientific information of that to say, well,
Mhm.
could you do one of these experiments inside of like a Faraday cage?
Mhm. Right.
So
Yeah.
now you only have the information coming in there. If these entities can't go through certain materials or are blocked because of energy begets energy, as we said, or is this thing
Mhm.
already inside the Faraday cage when you get there? And
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess maybe that
So
wouldn't even
many
be
things
helpful.
that so many things that we could do to, I mean, it's a shame this happened in the 70s because, back then they didn't have much, insight into the possibilities of alternative explanations. So it's like, if we could take the knowledge we have now and go back and do, I even say the same thing. If we could take the knowledge we have now and go back and investigate the Amityville house,
Mhm,
would the outcome have been so much different
mhm.
because we're so much more advanced in how we look at the paranormal field. But yeah, I'm one of those that I joined a team in Vegas temporarily, and we went to a location that they've always gone to. And I'm the one who, I don't want to say ruins people's perspective on things, but they had this long drawn out story of a spirit that they've been communicating with for 2 years at this location. And this, whole story about how someone died and it was a swimming pool that used to be here and the child died in it. So then I go home and I'm like, okay, that's the story they told me. And I went and researched everything. We
Mhm,
came back to the next investigation. I'm like, that's not true. I'm like, here's the data to prove it. This place
mhm.
never had a swimming pool in the basement. This place never had a basement. And I was throwing alternative theories at them, and they're like, oh, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like you can't just take, a story someone's told you
Mhm,
and make your evidence fit that story.
mhm. Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
There's so much. I mean, the information is out there.
Mhm.
You can, if you, again, back to being a paranormal researcher, if you want to look up a history of a building, you can find the
Mhm.
blueprints. You can find
Yep.
every person that's ever lived there in city records for the most
Mhm.
part, don't going back,
Right.
and you can get the history of those people. I mean,
Mhm.
case in point, like I said, the Gainers Tavern where we've done investigating. I can tell you every person that's, lived there. I can tell you the
Mhm.
entire history back to when it was built. And
Yep.
this information is findable and accessible to people. And you
Mhm.
can tell the fact versus the urban legends and mythology of it.
Right. Yep.
And I I have these people, we do paranormal tours at Gainers Tavern,
Mhm.
and these people come in and to do the tours, and they're getting all this evidence, and I just walk over and go, you're triggering that with your walkie.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh. It's so depressing. I just love putting people down going, oh, look at all this information we got. And I'm like, well, that's cool, but it's not real. And
Mhm.
I know for a fact this place is haunted. I know that there's stuff going on here, and there's a lot of stuff that you can get. You don't need to make stuff up. You don't need
Mhm.
to like say, oh, look at this. No, that's not real. That over
Yep.
there, that thing going off, that shouldn't be going off. Like that's legitimate. Let's focus
Right.
over there and leave this alone. But
Mhm. Yeah, it's I always used to joke that the best feeling in the world was watching a skeptic's face turn into a true believer when they have their first experience.
mhm,
But I'm now enjoying, and this is the morbid side of me, I guess you would say, I'm now enjoying proving people that their evidence is wrong and showing why it's wrong. Not just, hey, I think it's wrong. This is why it is wrong. Scientifically
mhm.
proven, camera mechanics, equipment mechanics. This is why that's not working. And their face is like the disappointment, like, oh,
Yep,
yep.
absolutely.
People stopped sending me their photos because I was a photography student in college. So I know how, photography works and how the cameras work and how, and you send me a photo. The first thing I'm going to ask you is for your EXIF information. If it's not there, I'm not even going to look at the photo.
Mhm.
And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blow it up to see if the pixels around the image that you claim to be paranormal are distorted. And people were sending me, and they were trying to trick me, sending me fake photos. And I'd be like, okay, it's, fake because of this, or, it's distort. The pixels and the photo are going this way, but then the pixels in your image are going this way. It's like you did something,
Yeah. I don't know. Like I've gotten to the point, like I'm not here to convince anybody of anything.
Mhm.
I've had personal experiences that, no one would believe. And
Mhm.
I know that other people have had those experiences, but to take a photo, that I've captured when I was there, I don't expect
Mhm.
anybody to believe it. Here
Right.
it is. It's a random photo. And the same
Mhm.
thing goes with anybody else. It's a photo that could have been manipulated or anything. And people should not take that as hard evidence. I mean, it is what it is. If
Right.
it's a photo, it's a good photo. And
Mhm.
it's a story behind it to kind of back it up. But
Mhm.
aside from that, it's all seeing is believing, and you got to go
Mhm.
out there and some people don't want that. They don't want to have those experiences. There's paradigm shifting.
Mhm. Yep.
It's when
Yeah.
you have
It's
an experience that you're not ready for, and
Mhm. Yeah. Or it's like orbs. I truly do believe orbs exist, but
Mhm,
not on photo or video.
exactly. Yep.
I have seen it was a red orb floating over the triangular field in Gettysburg.
Mm,
So I've seen it. So I do believe that, and it was, what it was. I have no clue, but I know I saw this big bright red light floating over, and it was in the daytime. So it wasn't like someone had a flashlight in the back of the field. So it was in the daytime, and it was floating over the field. And then I know my mom has seen one several times in her bedroom. So I truly do believe that they exist. But if you send it to me on a photo or a video, I'm just,
oh,
yeah, no.
I have seen a blue basketball size orb with my own eyes,
Yep.
and we actually caught it on thermal imager as well. So it
Mhm.
looks like a big soap bubble goes across the screen.
Okay.
It's not hot,
Yep.
it's not
Yeah.
cold, it's just this circular image.
But, yep.
Now, here's an interesting thought that I have had. We're actually
Mhm.
doing an episode on orbs right now, and it's a long story. We're doing an episode on that right now, coming out probably next year.
Mhm.
And here's my thought. So orbs, when we're looking at IR lights and
Mhm.
security camera footage and stuff, and people send me these all the time, and it's probably just dust, right? That you get
Mhm.
stirred up, and these particles of dust float past. For whatever reason, they show up in huge orbs of light in IR.
Mhm.
But here's the kicker of that. Okay, if it's just dust, 70% of dust that's out there is what? Do you know what it's made out of?
Dirt
No,
or skin cells.
dead skin cells,
Yep.
right? So here's my thought is if these dead skin cells are what creates dirt or dust, then is a part of your soul still attached to your body in these dead skin cells? And now you have the essence of a person being left in the dust that's
Mhm.
creating these orbs.
Hmm. Yeah, that could be interesting.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're just starting filming this episode, so
Mhm.
it's going to be an interesting ride here to come, and that'll come out next year.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's
Yeah,
I
that
don't
is
know.
an interesting one. Have to.
That goes in your whole metaphysical and the
Mhm.
soul and energy and consciousness, and does
Yep.
it you leave a little piece of yourself here.
Right. Yeah.
We're just gonna keep going here. I don't want to take up all your time. We're gonna wrap up here real quick here. But
No problem.
when I used to do haunted houses, okay,
Mhm.
so Halloween haunted house attractions, and I always got really into the science behind that as well.
Mhm.
And one of the things is when you're scared, your body puts off chemicals,
Mhm.
endorphins, pheromones out into the air, and that lands on the area around you.
Mhm.
Okay. So when you're walking through a haunted house and someone gets scared, their body releases these endorphins, they land on the area of this room. And when the next person walks in, your body picks up on those chemical endorphins and it
Mhm.
goes, oh, someone was scared here. I need to be scared.
Right.
So the faster you can scare somebody in a haunted house, the faster these endorphins, pheromones go off. They go onto the area. It creates this heightened sense of paranoia and stuff as you go in. So what you can do is, when other haunted houses have rummage sales or get rid of stuff, you pick up all this old stuff. You never dust, you never clean anything in a haunted house, because it has all those chemicals on it. And you know, we were one of the top rated haunts in Wisconsin, because, you know, if you understand science, you understand how to scare somebody.
Right. Exactly.
So fun.
It makes it fun for us, but if people really knew what you were doing, that would take the fun out of it.
Yeah. Like, how do you scare someone with science? That's what I do. Yeah.
Yep. And that could also, taking that on the paranormal aspect, that could also lead to, like, you have someone move out of a house because of paranormal activity, and someone else moves in. Who's to say that they're not picking up on the fear that the previous family had? Absolutely.
Anything. I mean, you know, my mediums on my team talk all the time about how houses are alive. You know, because they're made out of wood. Trees were alive. They have that soul, that energy, that essence. Your house remembers. Your house remembers negativity. It needs to be cleansed. It needs to have those vibrations raised after traumatic events and stuff, because it remembers.
Yeah. Because that's actually a theory that a friend of mine has. It's when you remodel a house, paranormal activity kicks up. Is it because the wood and everything in your home has absorbed all the, you know, the stone tape theory, absorbed the energy, and when you destroy it to remove it, does it release it back into the home?
Oh, I like that.
It's not because the spirit's pissed that you're remodeling their home. It's they're released again.
You've just cracked that back open. It's like if you disturb a pile of dust, you've now put that back up into the room, and now you've had all this wood, and the house absorbs all the energy and stuff. You disturb the dust, you disturb the house, you put it all back out there.
Yep, exactly. So that was his theory on that one. And because we have a really old, it's a hotel over in Vero Beach, and it's Waldo's. And he built it, the man who built it by collecting driftwood off of the ocean. And even though he was known to haunt it, once they started remodeling, they were getting not only his spirit, but there was a 1719 galleon ship that landed, or that 4 ships crashed just off the coast. And a lot of the survivors made their home on that beach, but also the driftwood that he's collecting could be from those ships. And that people have seen, you know, 1700 attire people walking through the hotel. And could it have been that when they remodeled, they released them from the wood?
Interesting.
Yep.
Have you, I've recently had a guest on that was talking about the fact that a person doesn't need to be dead to leave a ghost. And that they encountered the spirit of a person who left an imprint on an area that is still currently alive, but his ghost exists in this area. Have you heard anything about that or seen anything?
I haven't personally, but I know there was a case for a group that I was working with a couple of years ago where the woman, she came to us because she was experiencing paranormal activity and she was trying to develop her psychic skills on top of it. So she came to the group that I was working with at the time. And she had said that she was driving down the road and she ended up in a neighborhood she had never been in. And she couldn't figure out why she was there. And something drew her to a home. And she just walked up to the home and was just going to explain to the homeowner, you may think I'm crazy, but something is drawing me to this home. You know, and I'm not sure why. And I just kind of wanted to introduce myself and just say hi type of thing and see if she could get an answer. When the woman answered the door, she went white as a ghost. And it turns out that the woman who came to the door, they've been seeing her spirit in the home for months. And we don't know why. We don't know because she'd never been to that home.
So the family that she stopped at saw her? Oh,
yeah, they had been seeing her ghost in that home for months.
Huh. But she'd never lived there. She'd never been to that house before.
No.
So what do you why do you think that her energy or spirit was there?
We still don't know. So many theories come up. Was it a doppelganger? Was it, a negative energy that was just watching and coming in a familiar form, and that just happened to pick her form? And was she drawn to the house because of that? But then after she came to the house, they never had experiences again.
Huh.
So that's in it. But I've heard a lot of people, like when someone leaves a home, I know there's one, trying to remember exactly, but they heard footsteps coming from down the stairs, and they never really saw a ghost, but they heard footsteps coming down the stairs and someone going to the kitchen, make, something to eat, and then go back up the stairs. And it happened at the same time every day. And it turned out that the previous owner, who had moved and was still alive, but because they talked to the previous owner, there's a spirit here, he does this every day. And the guy's, well, I used to do that every night at that time. He would come down the stairs, get a snack, and go back upstairs and go to bed. And he was, but they're like, we got to go to the previous owner and find out if they knew there was a ghost here. And they're like, oh no, because the guy's like, oh, I used to do that. And then they talked to a paranormal team that I know, and they're like, they kind of concluded that it was just his imprint on the environment.
That's fascinating. I mean,
yeah.
The more you dig into the paranormal, the more you actually research this stuff and get into it, it gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah.
You don't get any answers. You just go, well, now what? Like now ghosts can be living people. How is this fair? Like how can
right. I know. And that goes along. I mean, when we're talking about manifesting energy, I know there's some experiments going on where that EVPs aren't EVPs. And that's where the Estes methods comes into play, trying to eliminate that possibility of hearing the question and then thinking of the answer in your mind. And that's the answer that gets imprinted. So you have that trying to prevent it. But then there's, thought, I wish I could remember the name of this experiment. I forget every time I'm asked about it, but they thought about an image onto a roll of film that had never been developed or opened. And then when they developed that roll of film, that image was on the negative of what they were thinking. And it was never put in a camera or anything like that to take the photo. So there's experiments going on with people actually sitting in front of digital voice recorders, thinking of words while it's recording, and then listening back to see if their words are getting imprinted on it.
That is cool.
Yeah. All the scientific experiments going on to eliminate what we're already doing in the field.
Everyone's out there looking for EVPs and, taking pictures and stuff. And then there's people just literally sitting there going, I'm going to debunk all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
all the hard you did. Yeah. It's nothing. No.
Yeah. No, it could be, but I mean, I believe there's a happy medium between the two. I know when you talked about my doing classes for TMCC, one class that I'm doing this fall is Science and the Paranormal. And it's a 3-hour long class that deep dives into why is the paranormal considered a pseudoscience? Why is, what's the difference between pseudoscience and science? And then it goes into all of the laws of thermodynamics, the Heisenberg principle, and basically the way I view it is, I mean, it's no different than some of these scientists that were killed back in the, 200s because they thought something and they're, and now that's actually how we, or it was the earth was, the sun rotated around, or the earth rotated, one of the world, the earth rotated around this instead of that rotating around that. And they were killed for their beliefs because, that's not true. The earth is the center of the universe. And now we know better. So it's the paranormal is no different. And I know the news, it started in a news article back in Vegas where I was quoted as saying this paranormal field will never be taken as a true science if it's always treated like a pseudoscience. So, and that's my purpose of teaching that class. So that goes into all the questions that you had earlier that I drew a blank on.
Interesting. That's so cool. Unfortunately, with any research, any science, it all boils down to money. And if nobody's paying for these experiments, if nobody's paying to do them, and there's nothing being done.
Mhm.
You know, you can have all the best intents, and until somebody forks over the money to actually pay somebody to do it, you know. I talk about this in cryptozoology all the time, you know, the platypus, right? So we just discovered that the platypus is bioluminescent. It glows under black light. And here's an animal that, you know, we've known about for years and years and studied and all this stuff, and nobody knew this. Why? Because nobody paid them to look at this animal. They paid them to say, okay, well, why does it lay eggs? Why does it do this? Why does it do that? But nobody says, here, just go look at it and see.
Right.
And as soon as they're trying to do, I don't remember what they were trying to do to the platypus, but they stuck it under the black light to see something, and all of a sudden it started like glowing, and they're like, oh man. Well, that led them to look at all the other animals, all the other marsupials from Australia, and found out that more and more of these animals glow under black light. We don't know why they do, but now we know they do. So just because of an accident of somebody paid for something else and they got this instead. So
Right. Yeah. And my son and I actually were talking about that same topic just the other day. And it makes you wonder, does it have some type of characteristics similar to the scorpions out in Vegas or out in the Nevada desert? Because they also glow underneath the black light.
Do we know why they do?
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a scientific reason behind it that they've said, but I haven't seen any mainstream belief on that. Something in their skin.
This goes to the scorpions and stuff, and not necessarily the other ones, but maybe the same thing is, can they see in a different light spectrum where they can see that glow? So at night, when there's looking for a mate or something, or you know, it's the same kind of like a predator prey situation. You hear something moving in the brush, and all of a sudden you see a glow, and you're like, oh no, that's just my friend. You know, he's just another scorpion. He's okay. He's not a mouse or something that's going to eat me. You know, and
and that's probably what it is. But I'm so afraid of spiders. I didn't care to look into it, because even if I researched why do scorpions glow, all these photos would come up, and I just don't want to see it. So that's the main reason why I don't know.
See, I was just
there might be an answer out there. I just won't research it.
See, because you're not getting paid to. That's the deal.
Exactly. You couldn't pay me enough to research spiders.
I was literally just thinking about this at work last night. I was running my hand along something, and I saw what I thought was a spider, and I was like, "Oh God!" And I looked, and I'm like, "Oh, it's just a moth." And it's this huge, big moth on the thing, and I'm like, "Oh, that's fine," you know. But if it was a spider, nope, not dealing with that. But moths are fine. Here, come here, little friend. You know, why? They're almost, you know, the same thing. They're both a big, you know, creepy bug, but nah.
Nope.
Moths are fine.
Yeah, I can't do spiders. That's the one thing and my son can't either. It's hysterical, because when we were filming for the documentary, we were crawling into a mine, and one of the crew members was like, be careful of the spiders. And my son's like, they're spiders. And I'm like, just keep going. If you don't see them, you're fine, because it was pitch black. It didn't make it any
better. They're not there.
I'm fine as long as I don't see them.
It's like, don't think about the pink elephant, and then all of a sudden you're like, there's spiders down here.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, I go, next time we crawl into a mine for you guys, don't say that.
Yeah, just keep your mouth shut. Oh man. We could talk all day. Like I said, we're gonna have a 5-hour special here that's just going through every single possibility of the paranormal. I gotta thank you so much. This has been an absolutely amazing episode, an amazing conversation. So many new theories and thoughts, and I am going to have a lot to think about going forward here. And you've definitely influenced some of my research and some of the things that I'm going to be looking into and thinking about down the road. So I sincerely appreciate your time and coming on today to, you know, supposedly talk about Hatman, but we did that for a little while. But all the other stuff that we covered has been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And just let me know if you have any questions. I'm always willing to help.
Absolutely. Before we go, where can people get a hold of you for those listening? And you mentioned wanting to specifically interview people for video, possibly. about the Hatman experiences. So tell people where they can go for that if they want to participate and submit their sightings as well.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to send you the link for you to share I think you already had the link for actually submitting the stories. Because I don't have that handy right now, but you can always find me on Facebook. I have several different Facebook options that you can go. You can either go at Exploring the Paranormal, which is my podcast show that is on hold right now, but it will be back. You can go to at Dr. Heather Leigh or at Exploration Paranormal. That is my personal science page, and then my family's paranormal page on Facebook. We do have a YouTube channel that has most of the podcasts that I host, and that is it should be at Heather Leigh PhD. So I'll have to get that to you again because you said it wasn't working. So I need to double check that.
I tried to look at it before the show went on and it didn't go anywhere. So all I got was the link to other podcasts that you were on. So it's fine because I know more about you there. So
right, yeah. Or I have the website listed below, heatherleighphd.com, but you could also go to explorationparanormal.com because my Heather Leigh one will reroute you to that. But on there, it has a list of what my team is doing. I'm going to be adding pages for, we now call it Project Umpra. It will be changed to that, and that's the Hatman project, so you'll be able to get access to that. We are redrafting the website for the project, so stay tuned for more information on that. But if you guys want to reach out to me directly, you can either do it on Facebook or at heather.leigh73@gmail.com, and I can send you the links for everything that you need, or you can even just share your stories with me there. I'm always more than happy to talk to anyone, and hopefully things happen to where we'll be not only interviewing everybody on video, but also having people do some other projects with us, whether it is our podcast or just one-off videos that we do for the project for the Hatman.
Very cool.
So many things going on.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everyone, because I forgot to at the halfway point here, this today was pre-recorded. So if you're just tuning in, we are ignoring comments in the comment section, not on purpose, just because this is a pre-recorded episode today. So with that in mind, we are recording this a little ways out in the future for when it's going to air. So hopefully when you get those websites and stuff all situated in that, we'll put the correct stuff in the show notes. Yep. I know I have your website and stuff in there already. So all that stuff should be in the show notes for you guys that are listening to this live. So
yeah, my website will stay the same. So worst case scenario, they can go to there and find where the project is at, because I'll have a full page on that.
Very cool. And we didn't talk about any of this. You have a lot of books out as well. You're a very well-established author. Can people get them on your website, or where's the best place for people to find those?
Hopefully in the future, they will be on my website, but I haven't put them up yet. But you can either go to Arcadia Publishing, your local bookstore, if you live in Nevada or Florida, because Arcadia specializes in local publishing, and then also on Amazon.
Okay. Very cool.
But yeah, there's 3. By the time this airs, there'll have been 3 out just in the last 2 months.
Wow. Very good. And what topics do you cover on those? Because I know you do some other stuff with those. So
yeah, it's Haunted Southern Nevada Ghost Towns and Ghosts and Legends of the Vegas Valley are my Vegas books. Then we have Haunted Florida Lighthouses, Haunted Florida Roadside Attractions, Haunted Florida Ghost Towns. Who knew? Florida was number 2 in the United States for ghost towns, next to Nevada. The one that I'm absolutely looking forward to is Ghosts and Legends of the Florida Pirates will be coming out. That one is supposed to be out probably a week before the show airs. And then a children's version of Haunted Florida Lighthouses is coming out as well. So that should be out by the time this airs. And then next year we have Ghosts and Legends of Florida Civil War. So
you know what book you need from Florida, right?
What?
You need a Ghosts of the Circuses of Florida.
I never even thought of that, because I do feature in Roadside Attractions Ringling Brothers.
Absolutely. I'm
gonna have to write that down.
And I know a lot about the Sarasota and Florida not paranormal, but a lot of their history and stuff down there. That was where a lot of the circuses wintered. So there you go. That's your next book. I will buy a copy of that. I'll buy 2 copies. So.
And I'll acknowledge you for giving me the idea. So
awesome. I like that. Very good. Well, again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, taking the time out to talk to me. And I'm so glad that we got this finally in the books and down, because it's been a while trying to pick a day and stuff. So
yep, schedules are crazy, but we managed.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to having you on again, hopefully someday. And I know we have a lot more to talk about. So
exactly. Sounds good. Thank you so much again. You have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Today's obviously was pre-recorded. So again, if you had any questions or comments, please reach out to Heather personally with some of her social media contacts or anything, and just let her know that, you heard it here on the Paranormal Spectrum on the Untold Radio Network. This is literally going to air as the last scheduled show that I have coming up. So I don't know at this time who's going to be coming up on Monsters on the Edge on Monday or on the Paranormal Spectrum, because I don't have any guests scheduled out this far, because we've been so busy booking this one that it had to be pre-recorded so far in advance. So big surprise coming up. Hopefully you guys tune in and enjoy everything that's going on. So until next time, guys, remember, we're all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. And until next time, guys, take care. Be safe.
You seem to